Law Assistant Professor. Subject Economics. Topic Microeconomics. First question. Which of the following is the primary assumption of consumer behavior theory? Answer option B. Consumers aim to maximize utility. The law of dimensioning marginal utility states that as consumption increases, marginal utility. Option B decreases. In the indifference curve analysis, a higher indifference curve represents option C higher level of satisfaction. Which of the following is an assumption of the indifference curve approach? Option B more is always preferred to less. The budget line shows option B combinations of goods consumer can afford given income and pieces. Option B the rational consumer is one who. Answer is option B maximize total utility given budget constraints. An indifference curve is convex to the origin due to option B the law of dimensioning marginal rate of substitution. The law of equal marginal utility is also known as option C law of consumer equilibrium. If two indifference curves intersect, it violates the assumption of option B transitivity of preferences. The slope of the indifference curve is called option A marginal rate of substitution. Which theory explains consumer preferences between two goods? Answer is option A indifference curve theory. The point where the budget line is tangent to the highest possible indifference curve represents option B consumer equilibrium. If the price of a goods falls, the budget line will option C rotate outward along that goods axis. In the cardinal utility approach, utility is measured in option C utils. The law of diamond is derived from which consumer behavior theory? Option B marginal utility theory. Which factor does not affect a consumer equilibrium? Option D producer profit. When the price of a normal good rises, its quantity demanded usually option B decreases. The angle curve shows the relationship between option A income and quantity demanded. A given good is one where option B demand increases as price increases. A perfect complement is represented by which shape of an indifference curve? Option C, L-shaped. Consumer surplus is the difference between option B, willingness to pay and actual price paid. If a good is an interferer good and increases in income will, option B, decreases its demand. The total utility curve initially, option A, rises and then falls. Which of the following is not an assumption of cardinal utility theory? Option D, indifference curves. In indifference curve analysis, the consumer's optimal choice depends on option C, both preferences and budget constraint. If the price of one good falls while the price of another remains the same, the substitution effect will, option A, increases demand for the cheaper good. The concept of consumer equilibrium is best explained by option A, utility maximization. Types of production function. Which of the following best describes a production function? Option B, the relationship between input and output. In a short run production function, which factor is considered variable? Option C, labor. Which of the following is an example of a long run production function? Option B, Cobb-Douglas production function. The law of variable proportions is applicable in option C, the short run. Which of the following production functions assumes constant elasticity of substitution? Option B, CES, constant velocity of substitution production function. A production function with fixed input proportions is known as option C, Leontief production function. In a Cobb-Douglas production function, the sum of the exponents alpha plus beta indicates option B, the nature of returns to scale. When output increases in the same proportions as input, it is called option C, constant returns to scale. The production function Q equal to AK cap alpha L cap beta is an example of option C, Cobb-Douglas production function. The law of dimensioning returns applies when option A, one input is fixed while others vary. The isoquant curve represents different combinations of two inputs giving the same level of output. A production function where one input can be substituted for another at a constant rate is called linear production function. Which type of production function is used in empirical studies for analyzing productivity? Option B, Cobb-Douglas production function. In a long run production function, all factors of production are option B, variable. Which production function assumes no substitution between inputs? Option C, Leontief production function.